Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Blissful Living Podcast. I'm Rochel Marie Lawson, known as the Queen of Feeling Fabulous, and it's good to be here with you. I hope you have been having a wonderful day, week, month, year, decade. Have a great show for you today. And as you know, I like to say, if you like the show, please subscribe to the show so that you can get advanced notifications of the show and the guest and all the goodies that's going to be shared on this show. And also share it with everyone you love and care about. The dialogue and the conversations we have on the show are profound. Many times you can take away the nuggets of gold that the guests share and incorporate them into your life immediately so that you can start having a more fabulous journey as I like to say, travel down your path to bliss. Now, before I get into telling you about today's show and our guest, I like to always tell you all to, if you're driving, you can't really do this, but if you're at home or in your office or somewhere where you can sit comfortably and spend a few moments with yourself, then find a place to do that. Grab something to write with, your favorite pen, pencil, and a piece of paper. Get your favorite beverage. Today, I am drinking a nice cup of English breakfast tea. And tell your family just to give you a few moments, or your staff or whoever, just give you a few moments for yourself so you can absorb the information that we're going to be sharing and discussing on today's show. And while you're doing that, let me take care of business. So first of all, I want to thank first sponsor Blissful Living for You at Blissful Living, the number 4, the letter U.com. The show is brought to you by them as well. And they have some wonderful things happening. If you want to really, truly own and transform your wellness, wisdom, and wealth, and I suggest you highly check them out. They've got a lot of things going on, events, master classes, virtual summits happening, and then, of course, lots of free goodies for you to help you on your journey to having that fabulous life of wellness, wisdom, and wealth. And they've got a couple of books on the site that you definitely want to pick up if you are ready to step into being that bold, unstoppable person that I know you're meant to be. And you may already be doing that, but you want to just elevate it a little bit more, see some of the secrets that other very successful women have utilized on their journey, then you want to check out a couple of copies of those books. Pick up one for yourself and then one for a girlfriend to share. And our other sponsor, well, wait, let me go back. And you can check out Blissful Living for You at Blissful Living, the number 4, the letter U.com. Now, our next sponsor is a premier telecommunications installation company located in Silicon Valley, or rather San Jose, the heart of Silicon Valley. They've been in business since 1990, and they service small, mid-sized, and large corporations. And what they do is they install voice, data, and fiber optic cabling. Basically, they set up your complete network distribution. So when you go to make that connection with your customers or those that you do business with, you are able to make that connection correctly and right the first time. And so their motto is they make the right connections so that you can as well. If you're in the need for a telecommunications installation company that can set up your complete network distribution, your cabling, your audio, your video, your speaker systems, whatever it is you need to help you be in the world better on the internet or in the wide world of how we do business today, then you want to check out All Day Cable Inc. at alldaycableinc.com. So let me tell you about today's guest. Now, today's guest is Dr. Don Iannone, and let me tell you a little bit about him. Don's curiosity has followed him through life, and allowing his curiosity allowed him to was able to guide him on a rich journey of exploration and discovery. Now, his boundless curiosity led him to immerse himself in writing, teaching, researching, consulting, poetry, photography, and painting. And through these diverse pursuits, Don has crafted a multifaceted career, earning recognition as a thought leader, a wisdom worker, an author, strategy and policy expert, and a creative leader. Now, his work reflects a deep commitment to understanding the world and sharing that understanding with others, inspiring countless individuals through his innovative and insightful contributions. Now, Don is a cancer survivor. And for 7 years, he and his wife, Mary, worked as complementary medicine consultants at the Cleveland Clinic Cancer Center, offering Reiki, meditation, journaling, and spiritual care to cancer patients and their families 2 days a week. Don is a gifted speaker, conversationalist on political and economic issues, poetry, personal creativity, complementary medicine, spirituality and religion, and metaphysics and philosophy, just to name a few. And Don holds a doctorate degree in divinity and philosophy, and he lives in the greater Cleveland area. And so today we're going to be talking about America's dream as a defining issue for presidential election and beyond. So I just want to welcome you, Don, to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Rochelle. I'm doing great. I'm here in Cleveland, Ohio. Tell me where you are.
Right now I'm in Texas, just north of San Antonio.
Okay.
Yeah, I am a native California Bay Area, Silicon Valley girl. I will always be a Golden State girl, so to speak.
All right.
No matter where I am in the world, the Golden State is always with me. I can't.
That's great.
It's like I'm as one as Silicon Valley as you get, because I definitely was born in Stanford Hospital in the '60s, and so. Yeah, so definitely Silicon Valley. And so I want to jump into our conversation because I'm intrigued, and I know that the listening audience and the viewing audience is going to be intrigued in our conversation. And so let's jump in. What is, according to your definition, the American dream? And then I'm going to ask another part to that question, but I really want you to define, what is the American dream?
Okay. So the American dream throughout history has been the whole concept of social and economic mobility that has been manifested in a lot of different ways. So if you go back to early colonial times, it had everything to do with land ownership and, certainly the freedom that everybody sought when they left primarily England at that time and came to the U.S. and established the colonies. But the American dream has evolved over time, and probably most people associate it with the fact that regardless of background, people have equal opportunity to progress and to basically pursue the American dream in their own way. Going back to, the post-war years of the 1950s, that meant a house, it meant a car in the garage, it meant that you were married and probably had 2 children, and lots of other things that it doesn't mean anymore.
Right.
So the American dream has changed as society has changed. And I can tell just by the nature of your show, you completely get the fact that women have had to work a lot harder to achieve equal opportunity. And while progress has been made, there's still a great deal that stands in the way of women, people of color, and now today, immigrants and various other classes of people that we find in everyday America. So that's what the American dream is, and it has changed. But I think the thing that's remained constant is that it has been an ideal that has been available to people, and hopefully allows them to pursue it in their own way.
I like that. Thank you for sharing that, because you took us back and then you brought us forward to today's time. And I remember growing up that, it was the American dream for my parents was to own a house and to have one car in the garage, right? And then if you had 2 cars in the garage, you were really doing really well. That was just the typical, I want to say, middle class America back when I was growing up. And you really brought to home some things that made me think, because over the course of that time, when I became an adult, the American dream had kind of changed quite a bit. It wasn't so much now having a job and a car and a house. It was having, a job, a really high paying job,
right?
Being very successful in your career, not having 2 cars, not having 1 car in the garage, or maybe 2, but having 3 cars in the garage. And, each of your kids had to have a car. And it really, to me, I think it has evolved just from when I was raising my kids and being an adult and raising my kids. It's evolved from just being comfortable with yourself to keeping up with the Joneses.
Mhm.
And, oh, they got 2 cars, we need to have 3. Or if they've got, a Lincoln, we need to have a Mercedes. I mean, it really has evolved into something that is definitely not like it was when the colonies first
Yeah,
started, or
absolutely.
even like when my parents or my grandfather who came back from World War II, their American dream on. So it is quite different. And then if you take the generation after me, like my kids or the kids that are younger than my children, it's completely different. Somewhere I think in there is the concept, or I'm hoping that we're hanging on to, that everyone is created equal and there's equal opportunity for everyone, no matter what gender you are or what color you are. There's
Right.
equal opportunity. I hope that really becomes the blood that runs through our vein as what really the American dream is all about, because that's how I feel. But who knows? So now, with regards to the election and beyond, we've got some interesting things going on.
We sure do.
Current political climate, and to me, it's not about being a Democrat or a Republican or an independent or any of the mixes that go on with all of that. It really is about who can do the best job and who's fit to do the best job. So tell us a little bit about what you think about the election that we have coming up and beyond.
Well, I think many of the things that I could say have been said by many people, but I think the key things have to do with the fact that we have 2 candidates, neither of which is fit for office at this point for different reasons. And they don't really represent the interests of America. You have a career politician, which is Joe Biden, and you have, on the other hand, a ruthless businessman who's been incredibly successful, but also has had many challenges in life, who, served a term as president, and he wants to be president again. But I think, my book takes a unique take, and I'm gonna show my book here, because this is what it looks like: America's Dream at the Crossroad, and it is available on Amazon now, as of today. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey. But my book takes a different take on things. I don't really favor one candidate over the other, and for that matter, until the conventions are held, we really don't know who the candidates are. That could change in the case of the Democratic Party, but we're not sure.
Right.
But I put the American dream as the main character in the book, and everything it represents and everything that it needs to be in the future, and the role that government plays in shaping the American dream in terms of either standing in the way of people's ability to live the American dream or to achieve it. And I think a comprehensive look is necessary at this point in time to get us away from the 2 extremes, because we find ourselves on the extreme right, the extreme left. There's a middle that still exists between the 2, but it's very, very gray and very undefined. And I think we need to look at things as a total system. We need to see, if you will, the ecosystem of everything and how it is related. So the right doesn't exist without the left, and vice versa. And the various positions that we see people taking around those 2 candidates reflect, in my opinion, the inability to see the big picture, the inability to see the joy of life, the ability to follow your creativity and your curiosity through life, which is really my story. And I think it's a lot of other people's story. And I think that for most of us, we feel trapped. We have to take sides. You probably remember experiences like I do from my childhood. You're on the schoolyard and you're either on his side or her side. Whose side are you on? I'm on my side, Rochel.
Right.
And, I'm trying to live my life to the fullest, and I'm trying to make a contribution. My wife and I didn't know how to retire. That's why we did the 7 years of contract work with the Cleveland Clinic. And it was unbelievable. It was just unbelievable. I mean, we grew so much from that experience, and you mentioned this before, as a cancer survivor, it had special meaning to me, but it was an amazing new thing. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, God. But I do believe that there are so many things in life that are open to us, but we need a larger view of things just so we can find new common ground. And I think that that is so important. And that's what's different about my book. And that's where my book, I think, actually gives people hope and helps them to see the world in a better way.
I love what you said. I mean, it really is interesting. I think we're in a sad state, to be honest, with regards to our political candidates that we have for presidency this year. And to me, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican or somewhere in between. The fact that we have two 80-year-old people, one that was, a career politician,
Yeah.
and then the other one that was, well,
Yeah. Well,
from a very wealthy family, and has kind of been spoon fed and has had multiple businesses and bankruptcies and all the other stuff that goes along with, him. It's very interesting that no one in the younger generation within those political arenas has stepped up to the plate and come across really eloquently and is a true representation of the American public. I think these two candidates are not a true representation of the American public. They don't speak for me, and I'm sure they don't speak for you. Now, some of the things they may say, okay, I can agree with both sides, but they really don't speak for me. And I definitely don't think they speak for the younger generation coming up, which is, going to be
absolutely
the continuation of our legacy of
absolutely, Rochel.
And so I think it's pretty sad, but it is what it is, and we'll see how it all turns out, and then we'll have to just deal with it on that end. But the fact that we're even having this conversation and relating it to the American dream tells you the state of what our country is in. And so I think it's definitely eye-opening, I think, for a lot of people, and particularly women. Women have come a long way, but we still, I think, have a long way to go. And yes, we do have a female vice president who is a woman of color, but I don't think she's a true representation of the average woman in America. I think beyond her being a woman, she doesn't really represent me. She got her values and what she says or what she doesn't say doesn't represent me in any way. But I think when it comes to women, we've made some huge strides since the 80s, but we still have a long way to go in being considered, I don't want to say equal, but having those equal opportunities with, such as men. So
yes.
I want to ask you this. With regards to our current presidential candidates and their stand on the American dream, what are your takes on that? And how relatable is their stand on the American dream actually relatable to people younger than us today?
Okay. Well, I will answer the middle part of your question, which is that I think that each has a political base that they do a very good job of representing. Unfortunately, their political base is not representative of what you talked about in the larger sense of America, of Americana, and all of its complexity and diversity. So I don't think it's representative. So Donald Trump's view is that we basically need to run government as a business. And some aspects of that make sense, but what you sacrifice is really democracy. Government and business are a long way apart. They, as institutions, they're both institutions, as the family is an institution, as the church is, education are institutions in society. And I think that we've lost confidence in many of our core institutions. But Donald Trump's view is we need to run government as a business, that it's okay to favor our friends, that it's okay to basically work with my powerful and influential and wealthy friends on the right. And so that's where he is. Joe Biden is just the opposite in that he is a career politician, but he works with the most powerful and richest people on the left and, in the more liberal camp that equates to what you have on the right. and everybody else falls in between the cracks. So their view is that in their own way, they strive to achieve an American dream that represents who they are, their values and who they are. So Donald Trump believes it's okay to do whatever it takes to be successful in business.
Right.
Joe Biden believes that government should be a vehicle, no matter how much money it costs. Let's just spend money on that. Let's just make that. Let's open the borders. Let's provide Medicaid for everybody. So he's got the view that the social programs, the network needs to continue to expand. What both of these candidates fail to see, and this is where I make 12 recommendations in the book. The first is we need to reduce the federal debt, which now stands at $35 trillion. $35 trillion, and it's growing every day. And that's a burden on the back of Americans and their ability to succeed. But special influences, basically lobbying by special interests from every group, the oil companies to the tech companies in the Silicon Valley, to the church, to schools, everybody thinks it's fair game to spend money and influence what Congress and the president do. I think it's not fair. That's what's disrupted the whole process of democracy to start with. Campaign finance, I mean, right now we have all the hidden money, the dark money that comes through these nonprofits that don't have to report the fact that somebody in Wichita, Kansas gave $120 million to one of the political campaigns. So you don't have to disclose it. And that's not right. The super PACs are very unfair. So I think they both have different visions of the American dream. And I don't think either one of them reflect what you mentioned a few minutes ago, the younger America. They do not. And for that reason, I think younger America is looking, either they're totally disenfranchised with politics, or they say, maybe we need a third party. And so one of my recommendations is we need a legitimate third party. We have not had that since Ross Perot,
Right.
Texas.
Right.
I'm all ears, Ross. But we have not had a third party candidate in a long time. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is that to an extent, enough that he probably will be a spoiler in the votes in some of these states.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love the way you summarize it all up on the two men that we have running for president are so far detached from the middle of what's not being represented, what's not, they're so far detached.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? Like Donald Trump didn't live a life like I did growing up. So he can't even relate to how my challenges or some of my challenges have been or are, or you know what I mean? Sure. He can't relate to it because he didn't grow up that way. And I'm pretty sure Joe Biden didn't either, right? However, they're so far apart that it's almost like there's this big gaping hole of us in the middle that neither one of them represents. Yeah. And so I think it's the young people, I think it's time for them to rise up, so to speak, and take a stance because, as we go forward, I'm in the arena like, okay, when I decide to retire, which is not too far off, I may not be able to get my Social Security that.
I know.
It's like my whole life I've been working, 40 plus years, putting into something that I may not be able to get.
Right.
And so it's like, that's a huge problem. And none of them are addressing that. Neither candidate is addressing that. They're so focused on the border stuff and, all of this other stuff and running the country like a business. But as we all know, Donald Trump ran his businesses and he's bankrupt many times. What happens if he runs our country and we bankrupt? Who bails us out? You know what I mean?
Well, we already are bankrupt. We're so close to bankruptcy with the debt that we have hovering over, everything we do. And we just added, a huge amount in this past year, to that burden. So,
yeah,
and that gets carried forward. You're right about Social Security. So when you think about the intergenerational aspects of the American dream, for retirees, it's just the way you described it. We worked hard. We did our part. We contributed to Social Security, Medicare. We deserve those benefits. But you also have people that have worked for years in whether it's civil service unions or private unions like the Teamsters and others that feel the same way. I mean, for them, a lot of what they work toward, they're never going to get. My wife and I have talked a lot about this. Her father was a firefighter for 30 years in East Cleveland, and he was an amazing guy. Showed up every day for work, did his part, retired, basically got his benefits. Okay, and his wife, my mother-in-law, my wife's mom, benefited from that. But not too many people in today's world are going to be able to do that. It's just not possible. I mean, the firefighters now, there's so few positions, and you're a contractor for a long time, and you have to go through all this training, and there's no guarantee you're going to get hired, let alone the fact you're going to get your benefits. So it's a whole different deal. So my book basically says we have to fix government, and we need to do it in a way that makes sense. But, when you look at special interest lobbying, people say, well, yes, Don, we need to do that. And then all of a sudden you discover, well, no, my church is an active lobbyist. The Catholic Church or the Evangelical Christian Church, they spend, hundreds of millions of dollars trying to get their causes in place. And so do the retired folks. So I think we need to clip them all back, because right now we're jeopardizing democracy when we allow money and power to dictate what happens. And that's what we have. So I also say in the book, we need to look at the global context. So we saw yesterday, that actually the swing to the right has been, throughout the world. And, the more extreme versions of that being the dictatorships that we see in Russia, we see in China, we see in North Korea and other places. But the swing to the right has occurred in many European countries, but we saw that changed in the UK with the Labour Party winning. And we saw just yesterday that there was a big comeback in France in terms of gaining congressional seats. That doesn't mean that they're ahead, but, it just reflects the way this pendulum swings back and forth. And the thing that we don't realize is every time that we swing to one extreme or the other, there's a huge cost associated with that. We built an economy, a technology economy, which, I actually am a real fan of. And I really believe if we use artificial intelligence correctly, that it's going to be a good thing, correctly, with ethics.
Yeah.
But honestly, technology has been about disruption, and at any cost. You look at how people have lost their jobs because new technology sweeps in. And old technology gets wiped out, and jobs that are associated with that are obliterated.
Right. It's very interesting times that we live in. The advent of technology, and me being someone from Silicon Valley, and seeing all of that, from the 60s to up until this point, how even Silicon Valley has changed from all the electronic firms that were making the chips for the microprocessors for defense contracting and all of that to now, a lot of those electronics firms are no longer in existence because we have all these tech companies, which have kind of are the new version, right? The new version. It's very interesting. And as we go forward, I think hopefully we'll come together, but we've got a lot to do. And, one of the things that I'm very passionate about is supporting women veterans and veterans in general. There's so many people here in America that have put into our society have given way beyond the call of duty, and yet they're living on the streets and they're unseen or unforgotten or not listened to or not heard. But yet we can justify sending money overseas to fight a war that is very destructive. Sometimes I just wish that we would take some of that money and make sure that we take care of the people here in America first. We should have no homelessness. We should have no people that don't have American citizens that do not have a place to live or food to eat or good medical care. We are a society that put into that. And yet when I see that, going through wherever city I'm at, there's always homeless people. And I don't care what city you go to in America, there's homeless people. And some of those people are veterans.
Yeah.
How do we say to our veterans that have given so much that you need to continue living on the streets and being homeless and hungry because we got to send money over here to this other country that really, I don't know, I don't know what they do for us or what we get out of it, but I just can't see the rationale. And as a registered nurse for 34 years, I can't see how we can deny basic necessities to our actual American citizens.
Right.
So I think once we start addressing some of these issues within our own country that we need to tackle, but no one wants to tackle that. They want to give money here. They want to give money there. They want to support this cause. They want to, dole out contracts to their best friends and,
Right.
whatever it is until we bring it back and get it together ourselves. Our trajectory is just going to continue to not be.
Well, I want to offer a couple comments. The first is that you're absolutely right about the men and women that have served this country. When I look back at the premier sacrifice, we watched the 80th year celebration of D-Day, and we were in tears because my father, my wife's father, were both a part of that process. They lived through that. They came home. They didn't expect anything special, but they did expect that they were going to have the benefits that they earned. But this is a world that we live in where we've kind of lost appreciation for people who make a contribution, including giving their life for their country. And I agree with you on that. But I have one message for your listeners and viewers. One important message. As much as politics has become a blood sport in America, we should not give up on democracy, and don't be afraid to step up and step in and defend what you think is right. Because if we give up on the democratic process, we have nothing left. The American dream becomes a nightmare.
Yeah.
And everything that we've talked about in this half-hour conversation is going to be wiped out if we just kind of walk away from the political process and say, I can't deal with this. I can't even. But I don't thrive on politics, but I do understand what it's all about. I worked a lot in California when I was in the economics business. I worked in Chico. I worked in Monterey County. I worked in Los Angeles. I worked in Tulare County and Visalia. I could tell you places. And your home state, has a collection of at least a dozen regional economies. Each, in some cases, are larger than states in the United States,
right,
in terms of population and size. But that's what we have today. I say, don't give up. Try to see the big picture, whatever the big picture means to you. For some people, that means God, that there is something larger than us that to which we all belong. For other people, it's our common sense of humanity. For some of us, it's what we've done professionally. You mentioned that you were a nurse and you have, very strong feelings about, citizens, especially veterans, not being able to take advantage of what's important. And that's what keeps us vital. We have to have that kind of passion. That's why I followed my curiosity and creativity through life.
Love it. I love it. Love that message. So, Don, tell people how they can get more of you. And all of you guys watching or listening, Don's information will be in the show notes as to how you can pick up his book. But I want him to share with you all real quickly how they can get more of you, where they can pick up the book. Of course, you did say Amazon and released today.
Yes.
But yeah, please share.
So my website is probably the best starting point, and it is my name, Donald Iannone. That's DonaldIannone.com. And that's kind of the landing page to reach me on social media and lots of other places. I'm very active in social media. LinkedIn, I use every day, but I continue to get my word out through everything from Twitter to Facebook to you name it, because it's all about staying connected. And
I love it.
But I hope that people accept the invitation in my book about a conversation. There are 5 questions I put at the very front of the book and at the back of the book. And I invite a conversation on my website, on my blog, about those 5 questions that have everything to do with people as ordinary, everyday people and how they show up in their life.
I love it. I love it. There you have it, everyone. Dr. Don Iannone, how you can get in contact with him. I'm going to put out a challenge. I challenge everyone currently listening, watching us, to go to his website and take a peek at those 5 questions and answer them, and then create a dialogue and conversation with Don. Thank you so much, Don.
Rochel, thank you. God bless you. I hope you continue to wear that crown and it flourishes.
Thank you. It's kind of funny, the crown. Back in the day when I first became a nurse, we still had to wear hats, and I was doing ER trauma. That's my discipline. And so, the hat kind of would get in the way of machines, and especially when you got somebody critical that's, getting ready to crump on you, so to speak. But somehow this crown always stays on my head. So I think my head is just made to have something on top of it.
I think it is. I couldn't do that.
Oh, thank you, Don, for your kind words. Thanks all of you for watching and listening to us. Again, if you love the show, the conversation, the dialogues that we have, please subscribe to the show so you get advance notification of the guest. And please share the show with everyone you love and care about. The more we can have these conversations and get these nuggets of gold, it just make our lives a little bit easier as we travel down our path to bliss. I want to thank our sponsor, Blissful Living for You, at Blissful Living, the number 4, the letter U.com. Please check them out. They have some really wonderful things to help all of you elevate whatever aspect of your life you want to elevate. And All Day Cable Inc., the premier woman-owned, minority-owned telecommunications installation company in San Jose, California. Check them out if you have a need for voice data or fiber optic cabling or any telecom installation needs, because they are your company that will make the right connections for you. And you can check them out at www.alldaycableinc.com. And until next time, I'm wishing you all peace to your mind, wellness to your body, and tranquility to your spirit. Open up your mind and allow the wisdom of all that's around you to flow and absorb some of that information. And don't be afraid to be that bold, unstoppable person that decides that you want to be a game changer to make the world a better place. It starts with one, and if we can ignite it like COVID around the world, we'll have some wonderful, wonderful transformational things that will happen for our country, our society, and for you and I as individuals. And until next time, the Queen of Feeling Fabulous, Rochel Marie Lawson, saying goodbye for now.
Thank you, Michelle.